But look, we're in spring portal season, and the good old transfer portal giveth, the good old transfer portal taketh away. And BYU is finding that out, unfortunately, on the bad end this week. It's taken away, the transfer portal has, a couple of Cougs in the spring transfer window this week, and they have been very good, productive players, an All-American and a starter. Are BYU's chances of another double-digit season now in jeopardy? And is this a sign of bigger problems, like legitimate cracks in the foundation of what Kalani Sitake is building in Provo? It's, I think, worthy of asking the question here when you see something happen like this, okay? So you have Keelan Marion entering the portal. He is a wide receiver. He's the third leading receiver for BYU last year, but he gets the headlines here for being an All-American kick returner. He had a couple of return touchdowns. And speaking of Utah, you guys think Utah remembers who Keelan Marion is? Do the Utes remember Keelan Marion this year? Because in a 22-21 loss, Keelan Marion ran a kickback for a touchdown in the second quarter of that game of the Holy War. So he's got 3 kick return touchdowns in his career. He does have 1,000+ career receiving yards. So this has been a productive player, even if hasn't been the most productive receiver, but certainly was a solid option who was very explosive in special teams. The other player this week that entered the portal for the Cougars is Harrison Taggart. Started 16 games over the last 2 years. He played in 24. And he had 69 tackles last season. This is a guy with a pedigree, former 4-star recruit, started his career at Oregon. So clearly some talent there. And it's enough to like raise an eyebrow. Like, oh man, okay. Like, especially when I saw Keelan Marion, because look, nothing against Harrison Taggart. BYU's defense was great and probably the biggest reason why BYU had the success that they did last year. But not as much of a household name as the guy running kicks back for touchdowns in the Holy War in a huge game, right? I mean, you just have more star power when you're doing that. So when I saw Keelan Marion, I was like, oh boy. Then you start seeing like, oh, here's the offers that Keelan Marion's getting. And it's like, damn, all right. So there's some real legit attention for him across the country. I mean, BYU's in a mode, basically like run it back mode, you know? I mean, that seems to be kind of the attitude this offseason. Run it back. You got Jake Retzloff coming back. You got Chase Roberts coming back. Good chunk of the defense back. Not everybody, but good chunk of the defense back. There are enough of like the primary playmakers on this team returning from last year that it felt like that's sort of the mode that you were going to be in this year and trying to do it again, win double-digit games again, maybe get over the hump and get to the Big 12 championship game this year. And unfortunately, the spring portal window, man, if you are in that sort of situation, it can be just brutal. You lose guys now, and look, the portal is open until Friday. That's just when players can enter, so you'll still have time after that to chase players that are in, but you now probably are scrambling a little bit to make sure that you can get some replacements here. At receiver, it'll be interesting because I know there's a lot of depth there, not as proven as a guy like Keelan Marion, who does have 1,000+ career receiving yards, but you know, JoJo Phillips, Parker Kingston, Dominic McKenzie, like there's a Nakua. Okay. I saw a Nakua when I was reading about BYU's receiver depth. That seems good. That seems good anytime that you have a Nakua. Yeah, you may feel like you have some production issues at receiver when you're missing 2 of your top 3 from last year. Chase Roberts is back. That's huge. Obviously the number 1 target, but you lost 2 and 3. And maybe you need a starting linebacker now. We'll see. I mean, look, part of the deal here is, like I just said, BYU's got a lot of depth at receiver. They do have a former 4-star prospect that they can plug in at linebacker now if that's the route that they want to go, if you feel like doing that. So it's not like the cupboard is totally bare. So I'm not someone that's going to sit here and like gloom and doom this to death and predict that this is the downfall of BYU's program, or this is, you know, the dam breaking and there are really, really big issues behind the scenes. I think some of this is just the reality of college football, and it could be a number of different things. I think with Marion, it becomes, when you see the offer list that he had, like he supposedly has offers from like Oklahoma, Arkansas, Tennessee. That's sort of one of those just like the reality of college football kind of things. This may be a kid that started hearing about what schools were interested as we get later in the spring portal and schools become more desperate for adding some extra punch. Like schools have now been through spring football. So SEC schools have seen their roster. They've seen what they've got. They've seen how they performed with live bullets flying in the spring, and they're looking around now like, okay, shoot, we really need somebody. We need some explosiveness on special teams and in our receiving core. Like, hey, man, you could really make some money and come play in the SEC or just at a prestigious school. That sort of thing happens all the time, all over the place. Guys are getting lured in quite frequently, and that may just be what happened here and a reality that BYU is going to have to deal with. I don't know this. Maybe is Taggart, is it about playing time? Does he feel like in spring wasn't going to totally lock down that spot? A guy who's been a part-time starter over his 2-year career? Maybe. I don't know. Not entirely sure. There are a lot of things this could be. I don't think it's some big orchestrated, hey, there are massive problems here. I think it's kind of just BYU having to deal with the realities of college football in 2025. Without any real inside info, that would be my take on it. Now, I've seen this a lot. I'm going to bring this up, and I know I have a super chat here from Josh. I will get to it in just a second, Josh, just because I'm seeing this from Steele and it works, and you guys are both going to kind of play off each other. Steele says, obviously, BYU doesn't have football NIL like in basketball, losing starters because you aren't paying them, and sounds like more soon will be entering the portal. Well, we'll see. So, Steele, clearly a Utah fan. All right. Appreciate you being here, Steele. I have seen this a lot, like this idea that BYU does not have as much football NIL support as they do basketball. I know someone would have to fill me in on like the why, but like an explanation for that. I don't really understand what the explanation for that would actually be. Is that truly what this is? Are these just rumors, like, Utah fan rumors that are going around there that this is all about money and that more soon will be entering the portal? I'll believe it when I see it on more soon entering the portal. If a bunch of other starters do enter the portal, then that becomes a much more plausible potential reality here. If it is some NIL-based thing. If it's just a couple, I'm inclined to think there could be other reasons and just more individual things happening with each of these guys. It's not hit like red alarm fire sort of a place for me yet. But Josh, very generous donation. I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for being here. And thank you for chipping in. Josh says BYU top NIL, hilarious. They're always lowest or second to the bottom in football recruiting rankings. Never finished in top 25 football recruiting rankings. They might have it for basketball, but other sports equals nope. All right, so there's this sentiment again, which look, Josh is not the only person to think that or say that. I've seen a lot of that out there. This is maybe I got to do a little bit more digging on this, okay, as to why that would possibly be that like basketball just has so much more. Because AJ DeMonsta, I mean, he may have shot down that $7 million rumor, but that's not cheap. Okay. And that, if we're talking about recruiting rankings, that is literally as good as it gets. He's the number one prospect in the country. So like BYU definitely has some money. I don't know why it would be that football isn't getting the support, especially after the year that they just had, right? This would be the time to really push all in on it. So I don't know. I maybe someone can help me figure that out. I don't know what the difference would be there, but I can understand why you would start to say that, Josh. I can understand why people would speculate that. I guess I'll put it that way in this era. As far as recruiting rankings go, I mean, I think that can get a little convoluted, right? Like, I mean, K-State has been toward the top of the Big 12 standings each of the last 4 years. They are not dominating recruiting rankings at all. I do think K-State has pretty solid NIL. It's not always all, especially like in the high school recruiting game, maybe not as much of an NIL driver as what is happening in the portal. So I do think it could be a little bit more complicated and complex than that, Josh, is all I would say. But I understand why you would speculate about that. I do for sure. And I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate the contribution there. So, I mean, look, if BYU's got the money to throw out there for AJ DeMonsta, they've got money to go either bring one of these guys back, which I know I did see some of the talk was about, hey, maybe they could still come back. Sometimes that sort of thought can be a little bit naive, but we'll see. But you can also go find somebody else. I don't know, the BYU is going to be the place like luring somebody into the portal, but you can see who else jumps in the next 5 days, and you can see who all is out there right now and try to go grab somebody. So either way, I don't think it's something that's like a kill shot to their season, but you do want to have as much depth and as many options as you possibly can. You don't want to be in the business of losing All-Americans. Okay. I mean, it's a pretty, sometimes it's just to say it out loud test. You definitely don't want to be in the business of losing All-Americans. Keelan Marion was definitely a valuable weapon as far as that goes.